everybody. I would like to start this class by looking at really the world of accounting. This PowerPoint is going to look at some accounting information. It will look at accounting professions and careers. We'll also take a look at ethics and a little bit on fraud as well. So as far as accounting information is concerned, we're going to look at, why do we have accountants? What is accounting? We'll look at, through the course of the semester, why is it important and why do we need it? So for the first part, we'll look at, so what exactly do accountants do? Well, what we do is we take information and we look at different transactions and business events, and if it is a monetary type of a transaction, we take that information and we record that information, and then we summarize that information in different reports so that the people that need that information can actually use that information. So the next question is, what exactly is accounting? Well, accounting is something that we use that involves looking at different concepts, different techniques, different rules that are out there that explain and show us how to measure and report all of that financial information about a business. The information that we look at, what accounting has to do is it has to identify the information, it has to record that information, and then it has to communicate that information to other people. It is dynamic. It also is a very decision-making discipline, in that decisions that people across the business have to make involves the accounting information. It involves the numbers. It involves the money information. And so that's what we do, is we provide that information to users of financial statements. Now there's two different types of accounting. We have financial accounting, and then we also have managerial accounting. Now with financial accounting, what we see is that it has a focus on external users. External users are those users that are outside of a business. They can include your creditors, they can include your investors, your shareholders, stockholders. They can also include the government, because we have regulatory agencies that are going to be possibly looking at financial statements. So again, your bankers, your stockholders, the IRS or the SEC are some of the people outside of the organization that would be needing to look at our financial information. Now, so that our financial information can be comparable and we can look at this financial information and know that what we're looking at is truthful information, we do have to abide by a set of standards. And that set of standards is what we call GAAP, or generally accepted accounting principles. Now, generally accepted accounting principles are our standards. They're our rule book. These are the rules that we have to follow when we are recording and communicating all of our information. GAAP is actually created by a group that we call FASB, and FASB is the Financial Accounting Standards Board. And so they are actually the people that are going to be responsible for creating our generally accepted accounting principles here in the United States. And the reason that we have these generally accepted accounting principles is that we do want our information to be neutral. It needs to be free from bias so that these external users know what they're looking at and they understand what they're looking at. So we all have to play by the same rule book. What it does is it allows me to take a set of information, it allows you to take the same set of information, and we're going to come up with the same answer at the end if we are using the same principles. The other type that we will be looking at is managerial accounting. Managerial accounting has a focus of those internal users. So internal users are going to be all of your different managers. There is nothing required as far as that managerial accounting is concerned in those reports, such as generally accepted accounting principles, because we create specialized reports. So we could create budgets, we could create product costing data, and we can look at any report that may be needed. These reports can be daily reports, weekly reports, quarterly reports, a yearly report. It really depends on what the user needs for that particular point in time. And it can be a whole range. I mean, your HR managers or your production managers, whoever the person is that needs this information is who we would be giving that information to, and we'll be using that information. Managerial accounting is very important because we need it for our processes of planning. You know, what are we looking at? Where are we going in the future? All of that information is very, very important, and so that planning aspect does have to be really looked at. And then after we go through the planning process, what we're going to do is we're going to look at what we had planned to happen, and then we're going to look at what actually did happen. And so we're going to need reports that show us that information so that then we can go in and we can control for this. And that controlling function is when we compare what we thought was going to happen to what really happened. And so we can see, are we on the right track? Do we need to make changes? Really, what's going on? And then we can move that information into making decisions for our company. And this is a circular process. It's always going on. So you're going to go through planning, controlling, and you're going to make decisions and plan again. And so it's a repeat. But that's really the focus and what we see as far as managerial accounting is concerned. I want to look briefly really at the accounting profession and different careers that are out there as far as the accounting profession is concerned. So the biggest one that we see is our public accounting. Public accounting is where we look at audit services. If you're going to work for a company, their books are probably more than likely, especially if it's a big company, their books would probably have to be audited. We also have different things, you know, in companies where we have internal auditors in companies, and then the external public accounting firm would come in and then do the big audit at the end. But this is just an examination of some transactions and systems. It does provide an independent report on your financial situation and on your books. Another thing that we see in public accounting is tax services. This is the preparation and filing of different tax returns. It also is giving advice on different tax consequences. So when we get into depreciation, when we're trying to make decisions on, you know, do we use, you know, LIFO or FIFO, or do we use weighted average, those have tax implications in them. And so those would be things that we would have to look at those tax implications on. And then in public accounting, we also have consulting services. So, you know, you could have somebody that does consulting on software. You can, of course, have tax consulting, and you can have a lot of different consulting opportunities. If you have somebody that's starting up a business, then you may do some consulting as far as that startup is concerned as well. Other types of sectors we have are the private sector. So the private sector is where we're looking at industry accounting. So this is where someone is employed either by a small or a large business, and they work for that business and they do the accounting in that particular business. Other sectors that we see are the not-for-profit sector. These would include hospitals, universities, as well as different charitable groups that are out there. And then we have the government sector. So accounting professions do include working for, you know, the IRS, working for the South Carolina Department of Revenue, working for the General Accounting Office, the Securities and Exchange Commission, and even working for the FBI is out there as far as a possible career in accounting. There are a lot of certifications out there that accountants can receive. Probably the most well known is that CPA, which is that Certified Public Accountant. You have CPAs that initially work in the public field. After they work into the public field for a while, they may stay in the public field or they may go into industry. Or there's lots of different things, not-for-profit as well as government. Is where all of those can possibly go into. Another certification that's big is the CMA, which is a Certified Management Accountant. So this is mostly used for people that are in industry and that they are looking at management decisions and things like that. We also have certified internal auditors. So these would be people that are certified to actually work in the internal auditing type of department. We have certified fraud examiners. You can have certified forensic accountants. The forensic accountants are the ones that are going in, definitely, could work for the FBI and things like that, and they're really trying to go in and find different things. I don't know if any of you've seen the movie The Accountant, but he came in and he kind of researched all that different kind of stuff and tried to figure out where things were wrong. You also have an EA, which is an enrolled agent. You're enrolled with the IRS to actually prepare tax returns. We have CPPs, which are certified payroll professionals. You have CGAPs, which are certified government auditing professionals. So those work for the government. You also have certified bank auditors. And then you also have a chartered global management accountant is another field that we see. And so these are not all of the certifications that are out there that are possible in the accounting profession, but they are some of the main ones that you will see as far as the accounting profession is concerned. As far as accounting is concerned, professional ethics is huge. And so when we look at this, first thing we need to look at, and because ethics is major in all fields of business, but what is ethics? What are we looking at? And really what ethics is it's the beliefs that distinguish what's right from what's wrong. So it's understanding that there are some things that are right, there's some things that are wrong. It's also defined as an accepted standard of either good or bad behavior. So it's looking at things and it's saying this is right, this is wrong, this is good, or this is bad. So why do we need ethics? Well, in accounting, we need ethics because, one, it enhances our profession. If an accountant's not ethical, then that means that the information that people are using is not good information. And so we want to make sure that that information is good information, and we want to make sure that we, really work hard to keep the profession and enhance that profession. We need to maintain the public trust. We are the line of defense between the businesses and the public. And so if we're not using ethics and we're not doing what we're supposed to do, it could hurt a lot of people out in society as a whole. When you look at, auditing of different books, or if you look at, preparing these financial statements, the public really depends on that. And then we need to be able to demonstrate honesty and fairness as something else that we look at as far as that accounting profession is concerned. Now, ethics is major in the accounting profession, and we have several different codes of conduct that are out there, and I do have links to these codes of conduct, so you can go in and you can look at them a little bit more just by clicking on the link in the PowerPoint. We have the AICPA, Professional Code of Conduct, and this is for your certified public accountants. You have the IMA, Statement of Ethical Professional Practices, and the IMA is management accountant side of things, so those CMAs are looking at that. And then you also have the Certified Fraud Examiner's Code of Ethics. So you can look at these different codes of ethics. You can really look and see what they have in common and what is in those. But it is major, and most of all those organizations do have ethical statements that you have to abide by. There are other things as well, and I've got an article here on business ethics in accounting. And some of the things that it talks about in this particular article that you can go in and you can read, it talks about why and what are some of the things that make the ethics important in accounting. And some of the things it talks about is the independence and objectivity. So we need, if we are reporting on a set of books like auditing, then we need to make sure that we have independence from that company. And we need to make sure that we can be objective to look at that information to make sure that that information, to the best of our knowledge, is correct. We also, integrity is very important in accounting. Confidentiality. We can't just go out and look at somebody's information and then go tell everybody what's really going on with that person. We have to remain confidential with that information. I can't work on somebody's books and then go tell somebody what they made or what their salary was if I'm doing a tax return or anything like that. That is information between me and my client, and therefore I can't go out and just spew that information. I have to keep that information very confidential. Professional competence is another thing that we look at, as well as professional behavior. So I have to know my job, I have to be able to perform my job the way that I should, and I have to act in a professional manner while doing that. And the last thing that I want to look at as far as this beginning chapter is concerned is fraud. So with fraud, there are 3 elements, and we call those the fraud triangle. And so with the fraud triangle, what we see is there are 3 things that have to exist for a fraud to happen. And so what we see is we have to have opportunity for it to happen. And so what does that mean? Well, there's low risk of me being caught. That gives me opportunity. There has to be financial pressure. I have to have an incentive. There has to be a reason that I'm going to commit the fraud. Whether it's something at home and I have all these medical bills, or there's something going on that's causing financial pressure for me individually. And then the last thing on that fraud triangle is the rationalization. I have to be able to justify committing this fraud. If I can't justify it, then I'm not going to do it. And so those are the things. Now, the biggie when we look at prevention of fraud is making sure that we create a good internal control system. Now, we are going to talk about fraud, and we're going to talk about having that good internal control system in place in later chapters. But I do want you to go ahead and start thinking about these. You will definitely be looking at different situations and have to know this information and know some of the different things as far as internal control is concerned. So that pretty much wraps up this first lecture as far as the class is concerned. And so just kind of review over some of this information just to make sure that you do have a good understanding of it all.